Section 1. The Hollywood Vampires, forging a sound in the gutters of LA. It all started on the sticky floors of Hollywood clubs. Before the stadiums, before the myth, there was just a raw hunger. The pieces of what would become GunsNRoses were scattered across the LA scene in the early 1980s. Hollywood Rose, Axl Rose, Izzy Stradlin, LA, Guns, Tracy I. Guns. I remember seeing these guys around, playing different gigs, always seeming to orbit each other. They were all chasing the same dragon, that elusive record deal. The scene was a mix of glam and punk, but these guys had something dirtier and more dangerous. The classic lineup didn't just appear overnight, it was a slow, messy collision. Tracy Guns and Rob Gardner merged from LA Guns. Axl, Izzy, and bassist Old Bache came from Hollywood Rose, March 1985. That was the first GunsNRoses. Ole was out. Duff McKagan was in, fresh from the Seattle punk scene. Tracy and Rob bailed before a West Coast run. Duff knew a guy, a guitarist with a top hat and a cigarette, Slash. He also knew a drummer, Steven Adler. June 1985. 5 guys crammed into a van, heading for disaster. From a guitarist's perspective, this fusion was everything. Izzy Stradlin, the cool, understated rhythm engine, a human metronome with a Keith Richards swagger. His playing was the bedrock. Then you had Slash. Not just a lead player, a force of nature. He brought bluesy, melodic chaos versus the technical, soulless shredding of the time. His solos told a story. They wept, they screamed, they fought. They lived together, they starved together. They rehearsed in a grimy space that probably violated a dozen health codes. 5 feral animals learning to hunt as a pack. The music reflected that reality. Not fantasy, not fast cars. The filth and the fury of life on the streets of Los Angeles. And welcome to the jungle. Not just lyrics. A diary of daily existence, screaming Les Pauls, a rhythm section that hit like a pile driver. It was real. You could feel it in every note. Section 2. A bullet. Dodged. The Poison Audition. Every guitarist has a what-if story, a fork in the road that could have changed everything. For Slash, that moment came knocking in the form of Poison. It's hard to imagine now, but in 1985, Poison was on the fast track. They had the look, the hooks, and a label sniffing around. They were looking for a lead guitarist, and Matt Smith, their original player, was heading back to Pennsylvania. Slash, still searching for a solid gig before GunsNRoses truly locked in, decided to go for it. He walked into that audition room, a world away from the grit of his own band. Imagine the scene. Poison was all about the party, the bright colors, the hairspray, and the good times. Their music was catchy, polished, and built for radio. Slash, on the other hand, was pure blues-soaked rock and roll grit. He showed up with his Les Paul, his curly hair, his low-slung guitar, and probably that ever-present cigarette. He plugged in and did what he does best. He played. He ripped through some blues licks, his fingers flying with that signature fluid, aggressive style. For a moment they were floored, but talent and fit are two different things. As Slash played, it became clear this wasn't going to work.
Poison's Bobby Dahl later said Slash was amazing, but not the right look or vibe.
They wanted matching outfits and choreographed stage moves. Slash was about the music, the feel, the raw expression, not the cosmetic side of glam. Section 3. The Midnight Shot. How Jungle Conquered MTV. By late 1987, GunsNRoses had an album, Appetite for Destruction, but they were going nowhere fast. The record was a commercial dud. Radio wouldn't touch it. It was too raw. It was too aggressive. And MTV? Forget it. The Welcome to the Jungle video was deemed too violent and scary. This was the era of Bon Jovi and Madonna. The band and Geffen were at a dead end. The album was on life support. Stalled. It looked like the party was over before it began. They were frustrated, broke, and on the verge of imploding. David Geffen wasn't one to give up easily. He called MTV, pulled strings, pleaded, bargained, probably threatened. Finally, a last-ditch deal. One play, and one play only. They'd air it around 4 a.m. on a Sunday. A token gesture, a test they expected to fail. They watched, tense. The moment the video hit was electric. Slash's delayed, stalking riff cut the haze. Then, Axl's scream. Unlike anything else on the channel. Not pretty, visceral, chaotic, utterly captivating. While Welcome to the Jungle kicked the door down, another song blew the roof off. Appetite for Destruction was a monster, but mostly lived in the hard rock world. Sweet Child of Mine turned them into the biggest band on the planet. It started by accident. A simple, string-skipping exercise to warm up his fingers. A circular, circus-like melody, hypnotic and childlike. Izzy and Duff quickly put chords behind it. Axl heard it drifting up and started writing, a poem to Aaron Everly. They added the "Where Do We Go Now" when they had no ending. Slash initially hated it, too soft, but it became their Trojan horse. Radio embraced it, the single hit #1, suddenly everyone was listening. It pushed Appetite to #1, and showed a melodic, vulnerable side without losing danger. At the heart of Slash's Appetite sound, the Derrig Les Paul copy. It wasn't even a real Gibson, he was struggling to find a tone with his other guitars. Manager Alan Niven brought a Chris Derrig 59 replica. This guitar was the magic ingredient, loaded with Seymour, Duncan Alnico, Secum, Totem Maurifo. Pro humbuckers, not overly powerful, sweet vocal mids, warm, spongy bottom. The other half, a rented modded Marshall 1959 Tremolo Super Lead. Stock number 39, hot rodded by Tim Caswell, cascaded channels, extra gain stage. Result, huge, saturated, incredibly dynamic distortion. Pure tube overdrive, no pedals for the core tones. Everything cranked with a tweak, presence around 7, bass 7, mids 8 or 9, treble 6, volume on 10. Into a Marshall 4X12, vintage 30s or G12M greenbacks. The Appetite sound is dry, just guitar and amp screaming. For the jungle intro, a single strong delay repeat did the trick. Timeless lesson. Tone is your hands, your guitar, and your amp. Everything else is seasoning. To nail the Welcome to the Jungle intro, it's as much about the effect as the notes. Use a Les Paul type with Alnico 2 humbuckers. Switch to the bridge for bite. Amp, Marshall circuit. A JCM 800 works. Gain 7 to 8. Keep it tight, not fizzy. EQ, bass 6, mids 8, treble 7, presence 3 to 4. Any solid delay. Boss DD or MXR carbon copy, time about 390 milliseconds, dotted 8, 1 repeat, mix around 80 to 90%, D flat minor arpeggio, high up. Bar the 11th fret across G, B and high E. Pick G, then B, shift. Pinky 14 on high E, then 11. Picking is all downstrokes. Let notes ring slightly. The delay echoes the first G as you hit the high E. Practice slow without delay. Verse. Attitude, and palm muting. It's A, G, C power chords. Chug tight on the low E, then let chords ring in the gaps. Slash often plays a half step down. E flat standard. E becomes E flat across all strings. Same shapes, lower pitch. Singers feel more comfortable, riffs sit heavier. It eases high vocal lines without changing fingering. A secret weapon live and in studio. Lower tension adds chew and bendability. Notes bloom with a throatier mid-range. The jungle intro feels darker and more menacing a half step down. The delay tucks into that pocket. Bass and guitars glue tighter. Kick drum and low E-flat sit in a muscular lane. It encourages aggressive vibrato and wide bends, signature slash phrasing. Bottom line, ebb standard thickens tone, helps vocals, and adds attitude. Perfect for Guns N' Roses. When Guns N' Roses exploded, the establishment didn't roll out the red carpet. They drew criticism. Old guard rock critics and conservative parent groups, called derivative and problematic. Violence, drug use, and misogyny were flashpoints. Songs like It's So Easy and One in a Million drew heavy fire. In an era of gated reverb and chorus on everything, Appetite sounded like an alleyway brawl. Many missed that this raw honesty connected with kids tired of plastic perfection. Today, Welcome to the Jungle is a watershed moment. That riff is a rite of passage. It's the sound of rebellion, an anthem for outsiders. Appetite is almost universally hailed among the greatest rock albums. It reset the scene, paving the way for grittier 90s sounds, including grunge. Kurt Cobain was a fan, even floated a tour idea. You can hear their DNA in artists from Dave Grohl to Avenged Sevenfold, Black Stone Cherry, even Eric Church. From a guitarist's perspective, Welcome to the Jungle and Appetite are essential learning tools. They teach tone, hands into amp, and control of dynamics. They teach attitude, conviction in every note. They teach rhythm, locking with the kick and snare, and how a simple, powerful riff can change the world. A masterclass in what makes rock and roll timeless. One graveyard spin detonated a phenomenon. The rest was fire, sweat, and tape. That's how Guns N' Roses broke MTV. One riff, one scream, one unforgettable night. If this helped your tone or your history chops, subscribe for more Guitarist POV deep dives.